In the mansions of America's Gilded Age elite, there was one room more essential than the ballroom, one so sacred women were often forbidden to enter: the billiard room. It cost the equivalent of $500,000 just to prove you belonged. But today, nearly every one of these rooms has vanished, converted, or abandoned. Why did the must-have space of the super rich disappear almost overnight? The answer begins centuries earlier, with a game that became a badge of power and ended as a relic trapped in time. Billiards began as a royal pastime, played by French kings in the 1460s, on tables covered in green cloth to mimic the lawns of their estates. Louis XI kept the first recorded indoor table at his castle, and by the reign of Henry VIII, the game had spread to English palaces, its presence a sign of power and taste. In these courts, billiards was more than entertainment. It was a display of skill and strategy, a ritual of refinement reserved for those with the means to indulge in leisure. Over centuries, the game's reputation as a noble pursuit solidified. Portraits from the Renaissance show lords and ladies gathered around ornate tables, the game woven into the fabric of elite society. But when billiards crossed the Atlantic, its meaning changed. By the mid-19th century, American cities were filled with public billiard halls, hundreds in New York alone, drawing in clerks, laborers, and young men eager for diversion. Reformers and preachers saw trouble. The American Temperance Union Journal described these halls as nurseries of vice, where gambling and drinking thrived. Newspaper editorials warned of gambling hells and idleness and dissipation. Police raids on billiard saloons made headlines, and city councils passed laws to limit their hours and keep minors away. Etiquette manuals warned gentlemen to avoid such places, equating them with taverns and bowling alleys, hardly the company the upper class wanted to keep. For wealthy Americans, the challenge was clear: how to enjoy a game now tainted by the whiff of vice and the company of strangers. The answer was to reclaim billiards as a symbol of refinement by moving it into the home. Installing a private billiard room in a mansion was more than an architectural choice, it was a statement. Here, the game could be played without the risk of scandal, away from the noise and temptations of the city. The billiard room became a badge of class and morality, a way to enjoy leisure while keeping a safe distance from the world outside. By the 1870s, no self-respecting tycoon would build a mansion without a dedicated billiard room. Its presence signaled not just wealth, but a certain kind of respectability, a refusal to mix with the chaos of public halls. The game's royal lineage was revived in polished wood and velvet, its reputation restored by exclusivity. In these private sanctuaries, billiards was once again the gentleman's sport, and the room itself became a fortress against the moral panic raging in the streets. A Gilded Age billiard room was defined as much by its physical limitations as by its social ones. The table itself dictated nearly every architectural decision. Standard play demanded a footprint of at least 18 by 24 feet, no exceptions. Anything smaller risked broken cues or bruised egos. The real obstacle was the table's heart, a slab of slate often in 3 pieces, each weighing 300 or 400 pounds. Fully assembled, a 9-foot table could tip the scales at over a ton. Some custom commissions, like those ordered from Baumgarten or Brunswick Balk Colander, pushed close to 2,500 pounds. Once in place, the table was going nowhere. Doorways and staircases were no match for that kind of mass. Moving one after installation meant dismantling the table, sometimes even breaking slate, or in extreme cases, removing walls. In practice, the room was built around the table, not the other way around. The permanence extended to every detail. Cue racks lined the walls, holding a dozen or more cues, each one a minor luxury, priced from $50 to $200, more than a working man's monthly wage. These racks were carved to match the woodwork, often in dark oak, mahogany, or walnut. The paneling did more than impress. It soaked up tobacco smoke, protecting the rest of the house from the nightly haze of cigars and pipes. The floors were usually hardwood, sometimes parquet, designed to handle the weight and to resist scorch marks from fallen ash. Lighting was a technical challenge. Billiard play demanded shadowless surfaces, so custom fixtures hung low over the table, fitted with green glass shades to reduce glare and prevent eye strain. Early rooms used gaslight. By the 1890s, the wealthiest homes incorporated electric wiring, sometimes both, as at the breakers where a bronze chandelier anchored to steel beams provided double insurance against a darkened game. The walls often included built-in scoreboards, some with inlaid ivory markers and cabinets for chalk, brushes, and spare balls. Every surface was chosen for function and durability, but also for a sense of masculine grandeur. The result was a room that felt as solid as a bank vault. At the breakers, the billiard table has remained untouched since 1895, a testament to its immovability. At Whitehall, Henry Flagler insisted on expanding the billiard room mid-construction, knowing the table's size would dictate the final layout. Even the air was different. Spittoons and heavy drapes kept the smoke contained, with strict bans on these habits elsewhere in the house. The technical realities of the table, its size, weight, and requirements, ensured the billiard room was not just a place, but a permanent fixture. This permanence shaped not only the life of the house, but also the dilemmas faced by future generations who tried to reclaim the space for new uses. At the height of the Gilded Age, the billiard room was where American wealth put itself on display. Nowhere was this more obvious than at the Biltmore estate, where George Vanderbilt spared no expense. The billiard room sits beneath stained glass windows, its walls carved from solid oak, and at its center a table that cost $1,500 in 1895, about $50,000 today. The room came equipped with a fireplace large enough to heat a small house, leather club chairs arranged for comfort and spectacle, and a full bar tucked discreetly into the paneling. Every detail was chosen to impress, from the inlaid cues resting in velvet-lined racks to the custom lighting that cast a golden glow across the felt. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the second's breakers in Newport, pushed the spectacle further. The billiard room there is lined with Cipollino marble, arches of rose-pink alabaster, and a mosaic ceiling inlaid with semi-precious stones, acorns, and ivory billiard balls in an echo of the family crest. The chandelier, a mass of wrought iron and bronze, is so heavy it had to be anchored to the steel beams of the house. The table, built by the Baumgarten Company of New York, has never been moved since 1895. The cost of furnishing this room alone rivaled the price of a middle-class home. It was not just about playing billiards, it was about making sure every guest understood the scale of the owner's fortune. At Whitmarsh Hall, Edward Stotesbury's billiard room dwarfed most people's entire houses. He commissioned a table that cost $3,000, custom-built and shipped in pieces, then lined the walls with hunting trophies and silver cups. The room's dimensions stretched past 30 feet in length, with ceilings high enough to echo. Stotesbury's ledgers show thousands of dollars spent on imported wood, bespoke lighting, and monogrammed cues. The billiard room was a gallery of conquest, as much as a place to play, a setting for trophies, deals, and the rituals of power. In these mansions, the billiard room was not just another space. It was the price of admission to the uppermost ranks of society, a room where money became visible, permanent, and impossible to ignore. Dinner at a Gilded Age mansion was a performance, every gesture choreographed for effect. As the final course vanished and coffee arrived, the room split along invisible lines. The hostess would rise, signaling the women to retreat to the drawing room for music or conversation, their laughter fading behind closed doors. In the silence that followed, the men settled into a different world. The billiard room came alive, its heavy doors closing out the rest of the house. Leather chairs creaked as men loosened collars and reached for cigars. The ritual as predictable as the courses that came before. Servants, always male and often in livery, circulated quietly, offering whiskey, port, or a fresh box of cigars from the bar built into the paneling. Etiquette manuals of the era describe this as the proper end to a formal evening, a space for men to speak freely, to smoke without censure, and to conduct the business that shaped fortunes. The air thickened with tobacco and talk. Games began, but not every guest played. Some leaned in close over the felt, cues in hand, while others watched from the shadows, trading stories, or discussing the day's market fluctuations. Bets were whispered, sometimes modest, sometimes far more. For the next hour or two, sometimes 3, this was the nerve center of the house. Here, alliances were forged, investments weighed, and rivalries played out in the language of strategy and chance. The staff kept the proceedings running smoothly, refilling glasses, clearing ashtrays, and adjusting the fire. Their presence was constant but unobtrusive, trained to anticipate needs without interrupting the flow of conversation. Rules of behavior were unwritten but absolute. Voices stayed low, no boasting, no shouting, no mention of domestic matters. The room belonged to the men for as long as the evening lasted. Outside, the rest of the house waited. Wives, daughters, music drifting from the parlor. Inside, the rituals of power played on. The boundaries enforced as much by architecture as by habit. This was the purpose behind the expense and permanence. A room where hierarchy was not just displayed, but enacted, night after night. By the late 1880s, the billiard room had moved beyond a symbol of elite taste. It had become a fixture of American domestic architecture, thanks in large part to the machinery of the market. The Brunswick Bulka Colander Company, already a giant in table manufacturing, turned the billiard room into a standard feature through relentless catalog marketing. Their price lists laid out a clear ladder, a basic table for $75, a mid-range model for $250, and top-of-the-line commissions reaching $1,500, each one promising a different level of prestige. Catalogs did not just sell tables, they sold the idea that a proper home included a dedicated space for the game. Engravings showed billiard rooms with dark wood paneling, custom cue racks, and overhead lamps with green glass shades. Trade magazines reprinted these images, and soon architectural plan books followed suit. By the 1890s, blueprints for new mansions routinely included a first-floor billiard room, its dimensions dictated by Brunswick's specifications. Architects and builders responded to this new normal. Design magazines featured spreads on the latest billiard room fashions, from Eastlake oak to Renaissance revival mahogany. The language of these advertisements was clear. Leaving out a billiard room was a mark of either ignorance or deliberate abstention. Even regional builders, far from the coasts, ordered Brunswick catalogs to guide their clients. The room's features were standardized, minimum clearances for play, built-in scoreboards, and heavy furniture arranged for spectators. The table itself became the anchor, installed early in construction and often cited by name in the plans. Brunswick's dominance shaped not only taste, but also the economics of home building. Their catalog prices set expectations, and their illustrations defined what a gentleman's room looked like in the American imagination. The industry's reach was so complete that, for a generation, the billiard room was as predictable as the dining room or library. Plan books from 1895 listed alongside the essentials, with builders noting that omitting a billiard room could lower a house's resale value among the well-to-do. The market had spoken, and the billiard room was now a requirement, not a luxury, but a given. This saturation would soon create its own problems, as changing social tides began to erode the room's place in the architectural order. World War I swept away a generation of young men who once filled the billiard rooms of America's grandest houses. Harvard's class of 1917 lost nearly 1 in 5 to the trenches. Across the country, family portraits grew smaller as sons and heirs vanished from the after-dinner rituals that had once defined upper-class evenings. The silence that followed was more than personal grief. It was a demographic shock that left billiard tables untouched, cues gathering dust in racks built for a different era. The war's end brought new rhythms. Women who had stepped into factory jobs and managed estates in the absence of brothers and husbands returned with a sense of independence that refused to fade. By 1920, the 19th Amendment gave the vote to 27 million American women, and the old rules of separation after dinner began to crumble. The jazz age swept in with its dance halls and flapper parties, where mixed company was the norm, and the idea of men retreating for cigars and billiards felt out of step. Prohibition, starting in 1920, stripped the billiard room of its whiskey and brandy, sending the rituals underground or ending them altogether. By the 1950s, television drew families together in the evenings, offering a new kind of entertainment that made the billiard room feel empty and obsolete. The rituals that once filled these rooms faded, leaving behind spaces built for a world that no longer existed. Owners facing empty billiard rooms in the late 20th century found themselves with a practical problem and an unexpected opportunity. The rooms were large, isolated from the main flow of the house, and already outfitted with features suited for leisure, with heavy doors for soundproofing, dark paneling to block light, and clusters of leather chairs. Removing a slate billiard table was no small feat. Many tables weighed over 1,000 pounds and had to be dismantled piece by piece, sometimes at the cost of damaging floors or walls. But as television and stereo systems grew in popularity, these rooms offered the perfect footprint for a new kind of entertainment. Home theaters in the 1970s and the 1980s matched the dimensions of the old billiard rooms almost exactly. Owners repurposed the space, swapping the table for a projection screen and surround sound, keeping the leather seating, and even converting built-in bars to serve popcorn and soft drinks. What began as a masculine retreat became a family gathering spot, the architectural shell of the billiard room, adapting to the era of movies and televised sports. From 1960 to 2000, this transformation played out in mansion after mansion, as home theaters quietly replaced the vanished rituals of the Gilded Age. Today, the rooms once built to keep people apart now invite everyone in. As architecture bends to new values, each repurposed space reminds us that what we build for status can vanish when society outgrows its rituals. The next transformation is already underway, shaped not by exclusion, but by the ways we choose to gather. What would you turn a forgotten room into? Let me know in the comments.